Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Was it better?
Okay.
Yes,
I want to hear it now. To one of the most dynamic people I know, Janett Johnson. She teaches novel, short story, creative writing, along with the English Comp and Research classes at Clovis Community College. Now, being highly versatile, she has also taught German and piano. She has a unique story. Janett was born in Germany, behind the wall. She came to America knowing very little English. Now, she has an early childhood education and counseling degree from Germany, but she went on to obtain her bachelor's and master's degree in English composition after she got to the United States. She is also a holistic life coach and was director of Leadership Clovis last year. She is a poet and a songwriter, and this is what she is known for. Music is an important part of her background, her German heritage. But before we talk about writing, I'm going to ask her to tell you a little bit about her journey from Germany and to sing one of her songs. So here is Janett Johnson.
Thank you, Jen, for introducing me so beautifully, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak and share my love of language with you guys. I have only two little corrections. Number one, I was the president of Clovis Leadership, which is important because every year they switch them. So director is different, but president was just like they select you. And then the second one was I taught creative writing, and now we have a whole new beautiful instructor who has a degree in creative writing, and he stepped in and teaches these courses. So I teach basic English, I teach transitional English, I teach English composition, the second part, and the short story right now. That's what I'm doing. Yes, just to things shift all the time in the educational field, as we know.
Right.
All right. Now a little bit about me. I actually wrote a little poem, and let me share this with you. As we all know, Zoom is amazing, and these things are possible. And so I wrote a little poem to tell a bit about myself. I call it Blessings. I am alive in the now, blessed to be living today, backed and supported by ancestors who were surviving yesterday so that I came to be. I am thankful for their strength, their resilience, thankful to be alive today, thankful for my blessings. I am breathing in, breathing out, blessed and thankful I am. So this is a little bit about, who I am and what I believe about life. And now I tell you a little bit about myself. I actually took many ideas. I looked over my little bibliography, and I looked a little bit about who I am and where I came from, what I went through. I thought I'd share this a little bit with you. Let me go a little bit up so you can see it. Okay, as Jen already talked about, I grew up behind the Iron Curtain. Oops, I'm so sorry, guys. I almost have it back up. 1 second, please. Let me see here that I get it all on. Okay, and where I came from, the Russians were the rulers. And I would like to share with you a little bit about the good things of being a socialistic country, the negative things about a socialist country. This is where I grew up. And I show you also 2 little film clips, videos on YouTube about where I came from. So back to, again, I was raised behind the Iron Curtains. And the good things were that we had United Healthcare. It was not about the profit, but about the well-beings of us. There was food for everyone, seasonal fruits and vegetables. We had environmental packaging, and we lived by the V, not only the I. We had respect toward elders and adults. We were compassionate towards the less fortunate. Theater and museums and art were known and accessible to all, which I think is important, because when I moved to America, I saw that really many quotation blue-collar workers didn't know much about museums or, classical music, or hanging out in a pub, rubbing shoulders with the lawyers. But in East Germany and later on West Germany, that's how it is. We all rub shoulders. There was really no separation. So obviously, like it is very often here in this country. There was a holistic approach in school due to the motto, knowledge is power. We had music, needlework, we had gardening, working with tools, we had out in factories, we had art, math, science, German, Russian, we had government, we had PE, and in grade 7 to 10, we had 1 hour of French or English in addition to our Russian. Russian we were taught from grade 5 to grade 10. We had no homeless or unemployed, or people who chose not to work. We also had no people who really mistreated their children, because if they were doing these things, if they were like, I'm not contributing to society, I don't care, they would actually reform those people. It's a subject matter we can debate, but you know, I hear very often the people say, oh, in socialism everything was free. Oh, and so it's totally wrong. In socialism you were expected, social and communism, to partake in the well-being of society. The rents were very, very low. Women and men worked at the same salary. We all had the same salary. I'm sorry, small here. Oops. Let me see, one more second. I'm so sorry. Let me go here. So these were the good things. Yeah, we had no open pornography, which, you know, was really very, I grew up very safe, very protected, and very romantically inclined. And we also had a connection to nature, a large connection to nature. So again, this is all about socialist culture, the good things, okay, that I grew up with. Now let's go into the not so good things of a socialist kind of society where I grew up. And I'll tell you more about it, about my family in a minute, but right now it's just about the overall of growing up in a socialist country. Hold on. Go up here, I'm sorry. Up. 1 second, I prepared it so well and then it just disappears.
That's okay.
I know. Let me see. There we go. But I wrote it down. But here you see a few things. I wrote down some more on my side. The negative things were there was no freedom of speech, and churches were banned, or there was only limited access. And freedom of speech means you could not make a joke about the government. You couldn't have a cartoon about the government. You could not have a different opinion. And mind you, East Germany was built on these dreams of we are a class of society, we are all in this together, and we help each other out, and we are truthful to another. That's how it started out. But when I grew up, it was totally a dictatorship where if you ever critiqued everything, for example, the factories where only certain parts were produced, and you criticized this, you could be in trouble. Anyone could turn on and betray anyone. So your neighbors were listening in on you. If you went to school and spoke up against the government or against a governmental official, you could be betrayed and you could be sent to children's home and your parents to prison. The travel was only in socialist countries. There was no competition, no incentive. You know, there were the same clothes everywhere. There were no price competition. And, you know, inventions that one of the driving forces of capitalism, vice versa, weren't really made, okay? The literature was controlled, movies were controlled, the TV, art scene, and newspapers were controlled. There was only one opinion. And yes, one could say, well, you know, with the free television that we have now, if you see what they really sometimes show, it should really be kind of censored so our youth will be protected. But this is how it was in East Germany. So I said that's why I grew up very protected. And, you know, there's points to debate. But again, there was total censorship versus here where, yeah, it's not like this. People could disappear from Monday to the next because the government didn't agree with them. They could just hang something on you and say you did this and this and this. It was a society of conformity and fear. If one of us was really different, you stood out and you could be chastised. It was a life filled with propaganda. It was a hard life for academics because the working class was preferred, even though it was said we are a classless society, but the academics who were thinkers were kind of restricted. We only had the basics for food, which in a way, you know, we had everything we needed, but there, if you were to want to have, like, let's say they had bananas maybe coming in, or tiles, or special things, it was important you had connections. You know, people stood in line for outlandish things, like if you had special tiles, and then if you knew someone, he could then help you or she could help you. It was a boring society. Everything fell apart. There wasn't much color. The politicians ruled. They even had separate jobs. And again, there were many lies. We were trained in 8th and 10th grade against the imperialist capitalists with weapons. You know, I know you were trained too. What if the Russians would come? We were trained. What if the Americans would come? Families were divided by East and West. You know, entire families didn't see each other, and we could not buy everything. It was unlimited. For example, we had to wait for a car for 10 years. Now I would like to read for you. Let me please come down with this before I then go into a song. Oh, let me stop sharing, I'm sorry. I would like to share with you an excerpt about where I talk about my family. I had a loving family and supportive, creative, well-traveled, educated parents, and they taught us the importance of questioning the status quo. We traveled, the arts, and the power of reading. They also encouraged singing and playing instruments. We got books as gifts, and we spent a lot of time in nature. We went every year to Hungary and Czech Republic, again, another socialist country where travel was restricted to. And we visited all historical and cultural sites, and we spent time with gypsies and farmers, and we learned about the countries by living there sometimes kind of for a few days. At home, my parents would meet secretly with artists and academics to talk about the injustices in our country and to our people. We debated politics and authors and their books. And we were also talking about movies that were forbidden to be watched and the books that were forbidden to be read because we lived in East Germany. And in order to climb the career ladder, many people joined the Socialist Party or spied on or compromised other human beings. So again, if someone would stand up against their employer, they would definitely immediately be demoted, find themselves in prison, or the children would be taken away. At the end of my high school years, I was finally at my goals. I also want to be a teacher. I love teaching. Since I was 5 years old, I pretended to be a teacher. And again, through my years, I learned the importance of education. I learned of it. And I finally was able in East Germany. I had a spot reserved at the university, which was where seldomly, since I was academic, I was lucky to have a spot at the university. And by the first year when I went to school to be a teacher, my father suddenly decided to escape this country. He went to Cuba as a specialist, and they promised my parents they could see each other in Cuba. But then when my mom was in at the airport to visit with my father, over the speakers, they denounced the contract they had made with them. So she wasn't able to go to see my dad. And my father was so enraged. He hadn't seen my mom for 6 months. He was tired of the system, that on his flight back, Germany had Frankfurt West in the capitalistic society and Frankfurt East in the socialist society, and he had to figure out to escape to West Germany. And then for 4 years, our family, my brother, my mother, and I went through hell to be able to go to West Germany. I will not tell you the details. I bet you all have seen movies. You have talked about this before. So my mom was stripped of all her rights as a teacher, an artist. I was stripped of my rights as a student. And it was just 4 long years without any perspectives, without any future plans we could make. But after 4 years, and we had only talked to my father via letters that were censored. We went to the Stasi, it's like, I'm sorry, but CIA, FBI, once a week to ask if he could be with my father. So after 4 years, he finally bought us free. And I started in West Germany, then going back to school, got my early childhood degree. And amidst many travels, I finally arrived in Clovis, New Mexico. I was married. The marriage didn't turn out very well when we moved over here. And then I found myself being a single mom. Jen was my division chair. She hired me part-time. And I was just happy to be a teacher. I went back to university here at EMU to finish my bachelor's and complete my master's. And the reason why I went back to school is that I learned very early, again, knowledge is power. And if I want to live in a country, I need to speak the language to be empowered and to have options and choices. And I still remember sitting here, I had just, there was my ex-husband sitting here on the steps, and I was with my children by myself, and I was like, I am their mother. I need to be their leader and their example. They should not tell me about English, I should tell them about English. And I'm responsible for them, and I want them to have a better life. I want them to survive in this country, so I better get my gear going and go back to school and empower students and myself and my family. So again, I learned very early that knowledge is power. And then being here on my own, I saw the need for education. And again, it was already installed in me thanks to my parents. And then I also have to say, I did nothing of this alone. I encountered amazing women, Jen for one. I'm not just putting her horn as the truth. I encountered many other beautiful females who empowered me, who guided me. When I had questions, they were there for me, they mentored me. So I was very, very blessed along the way. And I found one beautiful male division chair at EMU who was also there to support me. But most of the time it was all amazing women who were there and gave me chances and accepted me for who I was. So, but before I sing you my song, I would show you 2 more things. Again, I told you I grew up in East Germany. I would like to share with you my beautiful city. I grew up in Dresden. And if you ever have time, research Dresden. It's a beautiful city. It was a beautiful city before World War II. Let me share it with you. And okay, let me show you 1 second, please. It's just a 2-minute clip. So you see the city I grew up in, how it was rebuilt after World War II and how it's
brought down communism.
Chanting at the top of their voices, "We are the people."
And see how people today are enjoying their freedom. After World War II, Germany was divided by the Iron Curtain into the Free West and Communist East.
That's where I grew up.
With the fall of communism in 1989, Germany was reunited. In the historic region of Saxony, we toured Dresden and Leipzig. We start in Dresden with fanciful Baroque architecture and some of the best museum going in all of Germany. It's a city that mixes a dynamic history with a delightful to stroll cityscape. At the peak of its power in the 18th century, this wealthy capital of Saxony ruled much of eastern Germany from the banks of the Elbe River. Saxony's greatest ruler was Augustus the Strong. To embellish his capital, he imported artists from all over Europe, especially from Italy. Dresden's grand architecture and dedication to the arts earned it the nickname Florence on the Elbe.
Okay, I will switch over in a minute. What I want to tell you too is, again, you all heard about Germany being divided between the Americans and British and French and the Russians, and we were on the Russian side. So East Germany became part kind of Russia. Russians were our rulers, and our side of Germany took way longer to be rebuilt. There were many areas that were actually never rebuilt during the Russian rule. One of the buildings was the Frauenkirche. It was the women's church, and it stayed there after World War II until around 2000. It was rebuilt with donations by the entire humanity from around all the world. People donated to have this church rebuilt. But many buildings in East Germany stayed destroyed. They were supposed to remind us, of what Hitler did to us. As children, we went to concentration camps. We looked at them. We were again reminded of our humanity. And now also, what's very kind of painful is, I don't know if you ever heard about it, but Dresden during World War II was really not a strategic city. It was an artistic town. It was still standing toward the end of the war, and it had many, 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 many refugees from all over the world. They came here to run away from Hitler and from the winning powers. So in Dresden, on the 13th of February, 1945, we found, again, nationalities from all over the world. And what happened on the 13th of February, 1945, the powers that were destroying Hitler, luckily, they were surrounding Dresden and tried a last kind of demolition of the German kind of mental state, quotation. And what they did is they bombarded Germany or Dresden over and over and over. They bombarded it so heavily that the city burned down. There was really nothing left. And when you see me in a minute, I will tell you a little story. So, and again, my mom grew up as a child during this time. My father was a child. So the city was totally destroyed. And then again, Germany was divided, and Dresden fell, quotation, in the hand of the Russians. I want to show you something, what people did to rebuild Dresden. You see, it's a beautiful city again. It's very famous again. If you have time, you can always research. There are many museums, many famous people came from Dresden. So now I want to show you something. So after World War II, it was mostly the women who rebuilt the destroyed cities of Germany. Many men were in war. The winning forces surely helped out, but it was mainly really women who put the cities together. Show you a little clip.
Aus regelrechten Medienkampagnen, die sich in den unmittelbaren Nachkriegsjahren um sie entwickeln. Die Zeitungen, vor allem in Berlin und Ostdeutschland, berichten über die Trümmerfrauen. Sie stellen sogar Bilder nach, weil sich die Storys so gut verkaufen lassen. Die Trümmerfrau als Heldin wird erfunden. In Ostdeutschland hatten Trümmerfrauen eine viel größere Bedeutung.
So the women really became a sign of strength. They did hard manual labor. And right now we are in a pandemic, and many of us are really complaining, which I understand. But if I see those pictures, I can just say how lucky and blessed we are. In the winter, they had to do this work. They only often had one set of clothes. Think about it. People from all walks of life. Women started from 14, 15, the women till 60 and a bit. And then, more men came back from war. So now let me just tell you one more little story, and then sing my song finally, and then beautiful Jen can be asked a few more questions. One of the stories my mom told me, and it's really heartbreaking, is World War II, and that's why I also had my poem at the beginning. 13th of February, the bombs were falling like crazy. And my grandma had just given birth previously 2 weeks before to my youngest uncle, and I don't remember which one it was. So she was in a baby buggy. My mom's other sibling was with a piece of wood on top of the baby buggy. And then my mom was taken by the hand, she was the oldest, by my grandma. The sirens went off and bombing occurred. So my grandma ran with her 3 children to the end of the road, and there were 2 buildings, left and right. And people said, come on in. You know, they had a basement where they could close the door and be protected from the bombings. And my grandma stood there and looked left and right, which house should I choose? And she chose the left. They had to carry the buggy down, the kids down, the door closed, and incessantly the bombs just fell. Everyone was scared, hovering together by candlelight, and the noises were unbearable. But after half an hour, the sirens went back off, which meant the bombing was over. And they were all allowed to leave the shelter and went up the stairway, got out. Their house stood, but the other house on the other side was totally demolished. So if my grandma would have chosen to go to the left side, right side, I wouldn't be here today. So this really, think about these things. I always tell this my students too. Think about how lucky you are alive today. If your ancestry wouldn't have been strong enough against diseases or against the enemies that surrounded them maybe, you wouldn't be here today. So you were blessed to live today with all the options you have, but what do you do with them? So, and before Jen interviews me, I share with you one little thing. I actually put the text down here. Let me share it with you. And I sing you one German song. I didn't write this one. It was written in 1780. And I just loved it. I put the words on the right in English. And I just sing you the first verse. I believe in the freedom of thought. Again, coming from East Germany. I think that's no surprise. Die Gedanken sind frei. Wer kann sie erraten? Sie rauschen vorbei wie nächtliche Schatten. Kein Mensch kann sie wissen, kein Kerker einschließen. Es bleibet dabei, die Gedanken sind frei. Es bleibet dabei, die Gedanken sind frei. And the song goes on about that no one, even if you're incarcerated, can read your thoughts. The thoughts are your own. And no one, no matter what they do to you, can really take, your thoughts away. And again, coming from such a background, East Germany, and then having heard about how the working class always tried to be free of dictatorship. And the funny thing is, East Germany promised there's no more dictatorship, but it became a dictatorship, really made me aware of the power of thoughts. So I think I'm in the right profession. And now, Jen, there you go with your questions.
Yes, and certainly for any of us writers, we can say all of our background has made us what we are, and we draw on that, even if we're writing fantasy, whatever. I've read many of your works. You shared them in the short story classes that I took with you. Everything you do is so positive. All of your messages, just like this last song, if you followed along to read in English on the right side, so positive. And, you took what could have been some hardships, and there might have been other people that would have just sunk into the hardships, but you chose to use it to develop yourself, to even with your students. I know you're one of the most popular instructors there at the college because you offer such positivity to all of your students, and your background and the things you can bring into the classrooms, they're just like, well, that gives them hope for things. When you came to America, you went ahead and got your degrees in English. because you said you wanted to empower your own children, you needed to teach them how important English was. And so here you are now teaching it at the college level. We've learned a little bit of why words are so important to you. Tell us a little bit about your philosophical views as far as what stories do for us. You've kind of brought it out with all of your past, but tell us a little bit about maybe what mental level your philosophical level of writing brings us to.
Well, I really believe that language is more than just language. This is who we are, correct? I tell my students, they say, I hate English. I'm like, how can you hate English? This is a part of you. These are your words. This is your voice. How can you hate part of yourself? And they'll also get me like, I never thought about it this way. And for me, language is not just a part of itself. Language, like you even said, encompasses everything who we are, all our experiences, the things we already experienced in the womb of our mother, right? I mean, if she is a kind mother, and if you're surrounded by a big family, in the womb of your mom, you hear all these noises. You feel the positivism. So for me, language is everything. I cannot separate language from history or language from music. And this is my approach too in the classroom. I really try to include as many byways as possible. My students are connected with music. They are connected with history. Clovis, we used to have our cultural arts. It's still online, but now this program is, it used to be you went once a month. Our college put on an art show. We had people here from Austria. We had people here from different countries, right? And even Santa Fe Opera, and they performed. And I told my students, you need to go. And luckily, because of Christy Mendoza, we got free tickets. So my students were able to go and see those performances and had to write about them. For me, art is the essence of who we are. And the music of art and language is the essence of who we are. So you cannot see anything separately. History, if I talk to my students now in the comp class and we talk about the empowerment of women because of the right to vote, many students have forgotten that. If I or didn't never learn about these things. So if I show them a story, for example, the story of an hour, right? Or I show them Desiree's baby, they sit there like, why is this woman not? And I'm like, yeah, women had no rights, huh? And they cannot relate. Okay. So again, for me, it's important to include anything that surrounds us into whatever I teach, into everything that we experience. And that's my philosophy is language encompasses the world.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, yes. And I also believe in that our environment, I'm not just talking about our social environment, I also talk about the landscape, also kind of determines who we are and how we write. I grew up in Dresden. You saw a part of it. It's a very romantic city. And I'm a big romantic, okay? I can sit somewhere and look at a leaf, and as you know, I'm also an artist, but I can see this leaf and I can see beneath the leaf and I can look at little bugs around it. And I can make it into a song or a poem or a little short story or into a dance, right? So again, and here in New Mexico, it can be very desolate, but you have those little tiny flowers that still make it. And this is all the people here. They have this in there, this kind of drive, tenacity to survive in this rough environment. And they have a lot of dreams and also romanticism, but it's buried. So for me, because, the landscape shapes them. It's tough. We are not very wealthy, many people here. It's often about survival. If you look at the plants, if you're not strong, have a strong tenacity and grit, you won't make it as a plant. So that's how the people are. But if I remove those layers and show them, hey, there's also gentleness. Look at this painting. look at a baby and make him aware of seeing the world differently, suddenly they're like, they become gentler, they become kinder, and they realize there's more to life than, again, just the 8 to 5, 8 to 7, whatever job. So again, for me, it's language is who we are, but it also includes everything that surrounds us. That's mine. Yes.
Great answers. You talked a little bit about things bring prompts to you, if it's a little plant or whatever. And I know that I took a class with you, and you would, at the beginning of a class, and I know you do this for all your classes, you will hold up a prompt, and I guess you have written prompts now that you've given students, and you give them 15 minutes to write about it. So there's no grading based on it. It's just giving them the experience of getting those words down. And I'd like to hear more about your ideas for prompt writing, as far as what you give your students each day to get them writing, and how do you have them present it? Do they have to read these, or do they just keep it to themselves when they're done?
It's very interesting. My prompt writing has actually shifted. What we do now is, since we have realized, I have realized that many students really have less confidence sometimes than when I came here and started teaching, which was 15 years ago. And many students also do not think very deeply anymore. What I do now is I always give them a quote by someone, and then they dive into the meaning of the quote. And let's say Harry explains the quote to the people, and then Francesca says, oh, I wanted to say the same thing. I said, Francesca, you have such an amazing voice, and you have your own vocabulary. You learn by listening to you. How about you share your own voice and vocabulary with us? Then we can add on top of that. So that's my first I do with my students. The second is now that since we are not in such easy times right now, I tell my students, and they actually get a grade for that one, they ask them, please go outside, please go home and search a YouTube video and look for something inspirational, an inspirational message. So then they share this YouTube video, because I teach via Zoom, and then they tell us what made this YouTube video special for them. Why especially this YouTube video? And they have to share their thoughts, and then the other students chime in and tell us what did they think about this. I even took it so far for this semester that they actually also have to share their favorite song with us and then tell us why. And then some of them are like, Miss Johnson, it has bad words. I think it's cute that they asked me this, they warned me. And I'm like, oh, what made you choose this with those words? So it's really, one discussion leads to the other. And then so in between now, I have prompt writing, where, for example, I put a beautiful castle from Europe on there. And I say, okay, look at this castle. I encourage you all, just write whatever comes to your mind by looking at this castle, right? Or I asked them too, like I taught students in a small community, and I asked them, okay, on your way out today, this morning, before you had your first cup of coffee, what did you find when you opened the door? And then they wrote about what they found. They had to describe it to us. We didn't see it. And then we had to guess. And then they showed us what it was. So that's how I do it now. But I have noticed, so I really try right now to hit on the critical thinking skills a lot. And then the romantic and creative writings come in between. It's like there's this flow of river of language, and I add some little islands of rocks where they have to stop and pause and really, dive in their creative side. Yes. And the cool thing is too, life sent to the right students. I always have very creative students in my classes too. So.
Yes, you do. And, I know in speaking classes, they tell you the more you speak in front of groups, the better you get. And I think the more you have prompt writings and the more you're required to write about something, whether that's one of those Clovis museums shows that you have the students go to, or a prompt writing class or prompt write-in class, they've got things that they've got to think about, and it makes them write. And if they write every day, they get better at it. I know that one of the things in teaching, and it became very big many, many years ago when I was there, we had to develop an assessment plan. Each class had to have an assessment plan. And the assessment plan was not just to assess the students. It was to assess, well, why didn't our students learn that very well? Why did they fail in this area so much? So rubrics and grading rubrics became part of the assessment. And I always liked rubrics because they pretty well spell out. I mean, in a writing rubric, one of the first thing is, well, in your short story, did you hook them, and how well did you hook them, and things like this. Tell us a little bit about maybe your writing rubrics for your creative writing classes, or the writing classes that you have, or the projects that you have your students do, and why you feel like it helps your students.
Well, let me first tell you, and I think that's maybe also interesting for Texas. Any student now in New Mexico who takes a class, be it at CCC and then transfers over to UNM, the class have to be accepted. We actually aligned our numbers and course descriptions with every higher learning facility here in New Mexico. So it used to be, you took a class at our little college and went over to NMU, and they said, no, we don't accept this. They cannot do this now anymore within New Mexico, which I think is amazing. So then they came all together up to different schools. We were on committees. We came up with student goals, with student learning outcomes. So it's a combined effort, and I really love that. We had an exchange of thoughts, which will grow and grow. So no, I'm a romantic, as you know, and I'm a dreamer. And for me, it was very difficult to accept assessment. I'm not so much, I'm a logical person too, but not so much into numbers, and I'm more into the flow of things. So for me, it was difficult first to put my my flowing things into a box, into something linear. Yes, but then I realized, as you said, it makes a difference. Now I want to show you what I'm doing. What I do is, and something beautiful too that happened this year, I teach short story, and it used to be where we start off with 10, 12 students, right? When we had our class, there weren't too many students in it anyway, either. So last semester I had 8 students. Guess what? This semester I have 19 students in the short story class. I'm so impressed because we had difficulties with filling our classes with the pandemic going on, but this class, like 19, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is really, and we have many people from different states now. I want to share with you, first of all, my short story, how I'm teaching online this class right now, and I want to show you how I actually created my so this is online. And I have noticed, if you are an online instructor and you just have writing, people are bored. So I actually now interlude my lessons, what I put in here, with cartoons, with beautiful pictures, with whatever I can think of. So people, this is the page for our assignment. Oh, we have to do, Ms. Jones has some humor in here. Let me read the humor in here, okay? So just to give him a little positive. And then down here is the assignment. Okay, we have covered a few stories. So please take a piece of art and create a short story. Okay, so this is what they have to do. And here is my rubric. So this is how they use the rubric. This is what they are kind of graded on, but I'll tell you more about this. So here's the format of the paper. It has a title. This helps the students, for the other English or other classes they have to take. The paper should be formatted. There are the elements of short story you addressed. Then the structure of the writing, how it's put together. I also look at the mechanical errors because the draft season is over. This is the real paper they turn in. And then they have to meet the expectations. And there's the point value. Now let me tell you more, please. Let me see if I can go into, hold on, speed grader, 1 second. I don't want to, let me see. There are no grading sets. No, let me show you. Names, okay, let me go down here. Test student. okay, you see here would the paper be, and here would be the rubric would show up here. And then in the assignment comments, I also place comments. So I go into their paper, and every paper, it used to be when it was off the internet, but it was just you have your papers. I would be done evaluating a paper in, I would say 10 minutes, okay, 10, 15 minutes. Now by me going inside a paper, it takes me 15 to 20 minutes looking through this. Then I also evaluate according to the rubric. And then in here, I also do individualized comments for the students. So I would say it takes me 20 to 30 minutes now for each paper. But what I hear back from my students is they are so glad that I'm so detailed because they're growing. And, you know, in the students' evaluations, they always say, I'm so grateful, Ms. Johnson, that you really took the time out and commented because I can really grow. And I have had students who actually, you know, built on what they wrote in my class and made a short story out of it or a little novel out of it. Or, you know, so it really, again, I don't see myself just as I'm the teacher. I see myself as a facilitator anyway, more like a guidance or like a guide for their learning experience. And then I go in and give them suggestions, but I never say, you know, this is wrong. No, I just say, what do you think about this? Or please look at this. And it's like a piece of art. If someone just comes in and tears things apart, people will be brokenhearted. So I really try to let them know this is positive. This is not negative. We are growing together as a class. And in my English 11 composition classes, the beginning classes, they actually look at each other's draft together. Now, before I go out of this, I want to show you something. One of the assignments in this class is also at the end of the semester, they're supposed to share with us what author impressed them the most or what work impressed them the most. And they have to submit a little video. And I have the permission of one of my students to share with you the video they created for this class. So I hope it's okay if I show you a few minutes. Is it okay, Jen?
Oh, yes, go right ahead.
I'll show you with you. Okay, so she created this video for this class.
Edgar Allan Poe is one of the most influential authors of American literature and famous Gothic writers of all time.
Look at the setting.
He carefully crafts built imagery and sensory details in such a way to immerse the reader in the world in which he creates. Poe's writing is very deliberate, with the meaning to unsettle or challenge the reader. He has mastered the writing style of the first-person narrator. He uses the writing style in The Telltale Heart, which is one of his most well-known short stories. With the use of the first-person narrator, he is able to capture his reader's attention from the start. As demonstrated in his first sentence of The Telltale Heart, true, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am, but why will you say that I am mad? His style provides insight into the demented mind of the protagonist.
I have always been intrigued by psychological thrillers, drawn to suspense and tension of these stories, the intensity often leaving me on the edge of my seat. I would consider myself a thrill seeker. My idea of fun is conquering the tallest, fastest roller coasters, bungee jumping, diving off 10-meter platforms, and of course, watching a good horror flick. I enjoy the thrill of adrenaline and can experience these emotions through less dangerous activities such as a psychological thriller. Poe masterfully designs a suspenseful, frightening mood in his story, The Telltale Heart, keeping the reader on the edge of their seat. The narrator.
So I hope we got a little glimpse of, I mean, the students are amazing how far they take it. It's just amazing.
Well, they do. I've been in the classes with you and I have just enjoyed what every student had to offer, but you do a tremendous job with them. I want to thank you for visiting with us today, and I appreciate all the work you do in your classes with your students and with anything in the creative process. Thank you for also, anytime I mention anything that's going to go on with Cap Rock Writers, you always bring it up to your students. We will be having competitions in the future too. So I'll let you know. I know you always let your students know. And I know that sometimes because they're so focused on their degree and getting the work done, and many of them take many classes, they can't always submit something, but I appreciate you always letting them know. And for that, we appreciate you. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us right now?
No, but thank you for having me. And I will try in the future to really connect more with you. I have some other things going on the side as well, so it's really interesting. But thank you for having the opportunity to speak about my past, the beauty of life, and just my amazing students. And thank you for all you guys are doing to keep more words in the air. And yeah, thank you so very much.
Thank you. And we'll visit again very soon.
Thank you.
All right. And we're back. All right, Janett, thank you so much. That was amazing. And of course, we all like history, but I love particularly a history outside of our own from this country. It's always good to hear new voices, but everything you're doing with your students, I appreciate you. And I want to open for anybody else. As she talked, do you have any questions about anything? As far as writing or poetry, we have so many vast differences in this group, but if you have any questions at all, please be free to unmute and ask. I always forget to unmute, and I'm sitting there, my mouth going a million miles an hour, but does anyone have any questions? Debbie Ware, I see your mouth moving, but you're muted too, so.
Hey, Debbie.
Hello, Jan.
Hi, Debbie.
Did
you have a question, or it's good to see you?
No, I didn't. I was just making making faces, I guess.
talking to your cat over there. So, yeah. Janett and Debbie knew each other. Debbie also worked at CCC some years ago. Debbie and I are both retired, but anyone else have questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
I would like to know what you write for fun. Do you write like romance, or do you have certain genre you write? Are you too busy teaching to even get into that in your personal life?
Thank you for asking. And if I may add one disclaimer, I also like men, okay? I didn't mention any men in my thing, and I said women were just my inspiration, okay? Men, I have to just say that. I was like, I really sound kind of funny here, right? But I had an amazing father, and because of my father, I think I always was attending the discussions of the males about politics. So I think he really gave me my brain, the more logic brain. So I want to just let you know. Okay, now back to your beautiful question. Thank you. I actually write poetry. I have learned, I admire anyone who can write a novel, because I work very quickly. And if I would write more than 5 pages, I would already have forgotten how the character looks at the beginning and what he stands for or she stands for. So I'm more the quick person. Like, poetry comes very easily to me. And also, and I write, again, momentous poetry, but also very critical poetry. And I'm very interested in peace and love in this world. So I have a lot of criticism about violence of any kind. And that's what I write against. That's what I'm writing. And I also love fairy tales. So once in a while I come up with a short story. I love working with kids. When I sit with them, surely I become very creative and make up my own stories. And I have a partner who's a musician. And when we get together, then we just pop out words and write our own things. That's how I do it. And again, that's how I'm more, like I said, like a momentous. I grab the moment and have to write it. Or like even, painting. Jen knows me. I cannot hover for hours over paintings. 2 hours and I look at it, it's good. I could never go back. It would break my heart, because every moment is different, right? That's how I feel. Like what is perfect today, you go, this as well. You go back, oh no, what did I write, right? But then you suddenly had a breakdown and everything you wrote is positive. You're like, no, this is not how the world is, right? So that's why I don't like, yeah.
That's good. Do you have anything published? Have you put any of your poetry or short stories together in something?
People have told me I should.
You should.
I should. I have different places, and yes. Thank you so much.
And my mom, world, we want to see it.
Oh, thank you so much. You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you definitely have the poet's mindset as far as the speed, and I do too love poetry for the speed and the quickness to it. Novel writing is very difficult for me too. I challenge myself to do that, but yes, I kind of have your mindset. I want it done quick and in the moment, and I may feel differently one moment from the next, but I certainly understand that mindset. And every author has a different kind of mindset, you know, and I've talked to so many. Everybody has a different way of working, but it's interesting to hear how each author works. So.
And when you said this, Jen, I just saw myself laboring over one word and aging for 50 years because it would take me so long to accept the value of this word the next day. You know what I'm saying? So it's I admire the layer, how deep you can go. And yeah, I admire anyone who can write more than 5 pages. Just please.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
You spoke about our words being influenced, our writing being influenced by our environment, and you have such 2 different environments with Dresden and with New Mexico, and it's, you know, both beautiful in their own ways, but so different from each other. And so I was wondering how, if you found that influence, if you see a difference in your writing from before you came to New Mexico, and if it was influenced by the environment, if it was influenced by the journey of coming here, or how you think that kind of played out.
Thank you for asking me. And as I told you too, I lived in West Germany too. And yes, it's the same language, but it's not, because language has a whole different meaning. When I moved to West Germany, I heard nouns and terms I never heard before. I didn't grow up watching TV, and West Germans did. So there was a whole different language influenced by America already in West Germany. Then coming here's all America. So I think, first of all, I noticed my German has become even more beautiful. That's interesting. When I go back to Germany now, the German thing sounds like a melody to me. The words they're like way more polished. And I also think I have become way more careful. Yes, I looked at my interview, I'm like, yeah, because it was very very close topics I addressed too. But I'm very careful with words. And moving to New Mexico, because of my life, I think it's very, I could have become very hardened. My heart, I had to protect my heart. Let's put it very clearly. But no matter what you beautiful people think, I think to live in America can be very hard. Okay, it's let's talk about healthcare. Okay, let's talk about not having sometimes the basics. And East Germany and West Germany, they are more socialistic, so healthcare is never a problem. You know what I'm saying? You live totally different if you maybe have cancer, but you don't break the bank. Make sense? Like you maybe have just quotation, $10,000 put away, but you will be fine. But here it's so quickly that you can fall into a hole and lose everything. So for me, coming from the security, or like, let me please shock you all, what used to be in Germany, let's say you become pregnant. Well, 3 months before you give birth, you can stay home, and afterwards you can stay home for 3 years. And the government gives you a part of your pay, and you come back and your job is still there. Or your husband can stay home with you. So think about what this does to you as a woman too, and as a husband, father, because you feel safe. Make sense? My brother has health issues. He has been home for a year now. He still gets partially pay. They now reintegrate him into his old job that they kept open hour by hour. Or one of my friends is a She's directress of a preschool, and she had a lot of health issues. She had to be home for 5 months. She gets paid rehabilitation. She gets slowly, so being healed sometimes, it can become very quickly that people become tougher. You know, so when I came here from Germany, words had a meaning. Then I hear all these, I mean, I don't mind, well, I do mind cuss words, because for me, they are a very primitive expression of how I feel, for me, okay? I'm not judging anyone, I'm just saying. And I tell this to my students too, if you use this word F one more time, how about show me something else, right? And they are respectful of this. Yes, it maybe has a place, and you know, but for me, it's very vulgar. For me, so it was tough for me to get used to this. And even watching movies. Have you ever watched a French movie or a German movie? It's about language, communication, and slower and finer. And here, many movies, it's about violence, it's about action, it's about where's defined the beauty. Yeah, and that's what for me shaped it too. Now I want to say something else. I hope I don't upset anyone. Okay, if you look at what movies America, Hollywood especially, has brought out, let's look at natural disasters. Let's look at movies about sci-fi. I believe words become actions, words become power. And if I look at what Hollywood has created, yes, there are good movies out there. We're not even debating this, right? But the majority, and what kind of a world are we living in? So back to your question. For me, if a soul is not taught gentleness, look at our pandemic. What was closed down? Things that enhance life, right? Social life, beauty, arts, all the things that make us humanistic and human. If this falls away, even in education, how can a human being become a human? Can you, I mean, again, I don't want to judge anyone. I don't want to upset anyone. I'm just saying, it's my observation. I have to share my thought. So for me, I'm going back to where I become very gentle, how I used to be. But it was very tough to become gentle in here and think the survival, how many people have to fight for survival. Even in socialism, there was a certain poverty, but not so much. I mean, people, I'm sorry to say, but people still had their teeth. People wore clothes. It was a whole different, people here often have to fight for the essentials. And this is placing a high price on humanity. Can you? Okay, I'm not taking away the importance of capitalistic and invention and freedom, and we all can do and become what we want to. But is it really the truth anymore, or was it ever the truth? Just saying. Okay, and again, I don't want to have, but you asked me, so I'm sorry.
Oh, Janett, I totally understand what you're saying. Yes, I've never been a rich person. I never will be a rich person. But yes, I have also been on the side with health issues that I thought would send me into such a hole. And I was in my 20s at that time. And I thought, well, yes, the despair that worry can cause. And sometimes that's definitely a problem. And there's things that, again, in writing, my husband loves to read anything that's World War II. That's the only thing he'll read, but he likes to hear about what the world was like back then. We certainly don't want to regress in this country, but we have one thing about it. We have things that regress us, but we have things that promote us and send us forward too. And so we each try to find our choice. And I coming and teaching in New Mexico, I did see the poverty level. I also saw the level of income that some people made in staff positions, even at the college, who could not even pay their house payments, So yes, there's got to be, adequate care for those people and better housing for people who don't make much money. And because there's only so much positions at the top who will pay better. And I understand that too. And I love to read stories about that because those empower us and those help us as humans, we're all just here trying to make a better world. And we make a lot of mistakes and we think this is going to work. And we realize, oh, all this time that wasn't working. And we try something else and we shift back and forth. And I'm all for that. But I love your background because, you know, you give us things to think about. You know, we didn't know that world that you grew up in. So, but it's very important. But thank you for answering these questions.
And I hope I haven't insulted anyone. And I hope I answered your question. Then go ahead.
I'll put my hand down here if I can figure out how to do that. Okay. In your poem and in the writing that you showed us there, I feel some spontaneity in it, but I don't get that through your talking and your philosophy. How much of what you do is plotting and how much is what we call pantsing? Do you know what I'm talking about, pantsing?
No.
A pantser is one who does not lay out or outline so much. They may outline, but they don't make a lot of plans as to what they write, and they let the writing just kind of create itself
right by the seat of their pants.
As you write.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I'm the second.
As the plotter, the one who.
No. I'm not
plots.
No. I just it's in my mind and I put it out.
As a poet, you tend to be more of a pantser.
Okay.
Most poets are pantsers, I think, rather than plotters. Yes, I would agree. So,
but you know, as teaching short story, I wasn't sure how much plotting you taught your class as to, you know, setting up, preparing their characters in advance and all of this sort of thing.
Okay.
How do you approach that?
Okay, like I said, we all talk together within New Mexico what the student outcome is, and that's where I come in with my analysis, where I'm like, it's okay to have rubrics, right? But I also like you just come in and write. So I have 2 assignments where they can just come in and let go. And that's their short story. Okay, and I accept whatever they come out with. At the end, I give them freedom. But in between, they have to be structured. It's like you learn a new instrument, right? You have to have a structure to become free. That's how I was taught too when I learned my piano. You know, there are those beautiful people who just sit on the piano and can create things. But I came from the kind of old way. You first learn structures, and then it's like with a child, right? You have a structure, and once you know the structure, you are let go. So, and that's how I approach it in my creative writing, in my short story class. And again, it's not just a creative writing class; it's a short story class where we are supposed to also. So it's given by the curriculum already, okay? And then I took it the way I think they should go. And like I said, I have students who then use their creativeness of former works they have come up with, leave this class and then continue writing. And I had even 2 people who got their stuff published. So I think it's a mixture, but again, dictated by the curriculum and student outcome due to the assessment. Then I added my free spin at the end.
Good. That's okay. That's a great way to teach. Have it both ways, you know? Yeah,
I make it both ways. Thank you for the question. Did I answer it enough, Dan? Was it okay?
Yeah, I hear you. I think you're saying that you don't eliminate the spontaneity of in creativity as you let it flow as the work builds itself, but you also teach the students the importance of the structure in which the story is hanging in.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I would like to say something off topic for a moment. Dan, your background just looks wonderful. That starburst behind you makes you look kind of like Einstein with his crazy hair. And I just, that could be a story right there. Everything brings a story out of us, doesn't it? So this
is one of my paintings. This is an oil painting.
I love it.
Beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful.
Great. Beautiful.
We have a lot of artists here.
We do. Some very talented.
And otherwise, yes. So,
like I said, if you don't mind, Jen, I would like to join you once in a while if it's okay.
Yes, I'll send you links so you can join us when you can.
I would like to join you.
We're happy to have you.
We would love that.
Thank you.
Did someone say they had a question?
I did.
Yes, please.
Okay. One of them was just idle, Jan. You said how much you loved your Germanic language when you went home. Do you speak Hochdeutsch or one of the other dialects?
I used to speak Saxony, Sächsisch. Okay. No, but I was taught very soon to speak Hochdeutsch. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when I moved to Wiesbaden, which was West Germany, which is Hessen, they also have their own,
I learned Hessen Deutsch a little bit.
Yes, yes. And they said to me, we didn't even know you came from Saxony because of my high Deutsch. Yeah.
Right. Yes, yeah, yes. I learned Hessen when I was stationed in Darmstadt.
Oh, beautiful.
But, and that's because I always thought that was a much smoother language because they take out the glottal stops, that little that you get in the Hochdeutsch.
Yes. Especially after you drink a little bit of wine, you don't have to anymore.
I usually go with the beer.
In Hessen, it's wine, okay? In Hessen, in Bavaria, I'm sure we all drink beer, but in Bavaria, it's the beer for sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
In Hessen, you still have wine.
The second question was, which forms of poetry are your favorite? I mean...
Free. I'm just a free soul. Sorry, I am. No,
that's
not
okay.
I am free soul.
Everybody's got their thing. I've been dabbling in my novels. I got a couple of places where I've done skaldic poetry, which is the alliterative pentameter, or no, the iambic alliterative. Not a pentameter necessarily, but it's iambic and alliterative rather than rhyming. So it's a very odd thing, but you get interested in words anyway.
Right. You do. Yeah, but for me already, I mean, any word, right? You could take it and dissect it, with a microscope and really, add things on. Yes, more and more. And as older as I get, it's just becoming more and more fascinating. It's the layers and all, it's just amazing. And I think also our brain, don't you think our brains are amazing? Because like this beautiful lady asked me the question first, I really don't have much time to do right now things, but my brain stores all the knowledge from my students. It's really funny. And then I was forced to write 10 pages, and I wrote it very quickly. And then someone else, and they're like, you're writing amazing. I'm like, I do, but it's all from the books I have read. So our brain really holds on, to the structures of others and vocabulary. Our brain is just, we're so blessed. That's why just, like I said, we are blessed. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, that was my two questions. Thank you for the answers.
Thanks.
Steve, thanks for those questions. Yeah, I'd love to read your poetry sometime too. So looking forward to it.
All right. Are there any other questions for Janett?
Thank you so much for having me, everyone.
Oh, thank you. We really appreciate your time and sharing your story with us and reminding us of of this magnificent gift that we have in this day, and also the gift to be creative and to communicate, communicate our stories and share the things that we are able to share. So we appreciate that very much, and we look forward to seeing more of you in the future of our organization, which is going to be beautiful too. So, all right. I have a couple of just announcements, some things upcoming, and I wanted Jan, if you don't mind, to talk a little bit about upcoming programs. Okay. Just a few things. If you got our newsletter, just to let you know, for those of you who've been with us from the beginning, we started last year right before the pandemic hit, and we had many people join, and then we almost immediately had to shut down and go online, and we had decided already that we were for the people who had paid for their year membership, we weren't going to start. The year wasn't going to start until we were able to meet in person again. And so like last August or September, I think we started meeting again in person and then had to stop again. And so what we've decided is that your year of membership has still not started. We're not starting the clock until we know that you're going to be able to meet in person for those who feel safe doing so. And we're going to make sure that that's safe for everyone to do before we do it. And so just know that your membership is still good and is going to be good. And we're going to, we're going to try to give you as much value as we can under these odd circumstances. So, but we are taking, if you want to support the organization, we have a donate button. If you, if you want to contribute a few dollars, we still have expenses. This Zoom membership that we have is a cost. We have our website, of course, we have other things. And so we do have a place where you can donate if you want to do that. We'd appreciate that very much. Even just a few dollars, it makes a difference. We're going to be having some fundraising events coming up, and we'll be sharing more details about that. But just for anyone who's kind of wondering what's going on with that, that's what's going on with that. And then I also wanted to share an opportunity coming up. I'm going to share my screen again. Our writing neighbors down to the south, the Permian Basin Bookies. This is a great writing organization, and we've already, some of you saw Laura Drake, who was one of their members when she came to speak at Caprock Writers late last year. She's a great speaker, and they have an established writing organization down there, and they have a great conference every year, which of course they had to cancel last year, but they've scheduled this plotting workshop, which is on Saturday, May 1st. So coming up in a few months. It looks really interesting and a lot of fun. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Shirley Jump is leading it. It's an all day, I think like 8 to 3. Yeah, 8 to 3. You can pay $50 to have her analyze your plot one-on-one, consult with her. And then if you don't want to do that, it's $35 for lunch and breakfast and to attend the workshop. So that's a cool opportunity. And we're looking forward to partnership opportunities, both with Permian Basin Bookies and with the Texas High Plains Writers in Amarillo, and hope to grow all of our organizations in this part of the world over the next few years. And I think that was all of the announcements that I had. Jan, can you talk a little bit about upcoming programs?
Yes, we've got Suzanne Kelman will be here next month, and she is confirmed. I'll get a note out to her again today just to reconfirm, because you have to do that, I think, very often. Dan Duane and I will be the April presenters, and we'll talk about illustration techniques, and we've already been working on that presentation. And I thought, because that's the month of Arts Festival, we'll always do something about illustration during that month, and it could go every year for our illustrators. Now, this year they're going to have the Arts Festival in July. We've just learned that, because it's still closed for April because of the pandemic. So we're still going to do our illustration thing in April. Kim, give me the name of your guest for May.
Yes, May, it's Jonathan Aaron Baker, who is a writer. He is also a former assistant editor for a major publishing house. And we saw him speak. He did a really compelling presentation about pitching your novel and what editors look for at the West Texas Writers Academy. And so he's a great speaker, and he's very knowledgeable about writing. He's got a family of writers, and he also publishing. So he's going to be a great speaker for May.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to seeing him. Our own Tom Nichols will be our June presenter, and he's going to talk about his espionage series and what got him started and a little bit of his background. July, we've decided, should be open mic. Because I won't be here June, July, and August. I may try to record but I thought if we could decide what we want to read, but if everyone brought maybe a hook paragraph because, Jonathan will be talking about hooking and beginning paragraphs too, but if we all brought maybe our hook paragraph and read those things out, we wouldn't have to read the whole thing, but and we could talk and maybe discuss hooking a little bit, getting our readers interested in our story. We know that August is our vacation month. There's no guest on that month. Dorinda Jones is confirmed for September meeting. And I have contacted Sixtus Adabong for our October meeting. I've not heard back, but then I've only just recently sent out a message to him. And I've also sent out a message to Jody Thomas for our November meeting. And I think she'll be able to join us for that, but I'll hear back more later on that and I'll get with you. Christmas party we will have in December. Dan Dwayne has said he's got a game for mystery writers, and it would be a fun game to play. We played some great games this past Christmas that just were intriguing, and I thought a lot of fun. This will be a different kind of game, but it will also maybe help our mystery writers, help them develop plots. So we can do that for our Christmas party. I thought for January, we could make January always our marketing news month, and somebody could, because everyone gave a great presentation on marketing ideas last January, and just last month, and it would be nice if we could see what other people are doing with that marketing information and maybe get somebody else to talk about what they're doing for marketing too. So I've got a few people ideas started for the following year. We'll have, of course, in Christmas, I guess in December, we will renew our the people who are I guess, getting the names together and the different organizations. So I thought I'd go ahead and fill them up through April at least of 2022, and that way if somebody else is doing that, they'll have the names ready to go, and then they'll just line up from there. But I've been adding names. I've got another publisher, Joe Durapose, who is retired now, but he was their top editor for a self-help publishing company, and he had some of the biggest name books out there that he worked with. He does have his own publishing company now, but he's still a retired person, so he could give us a lot of insights. I don't know how many self-help authors we have, but that's a big market, and it would be nice to hear from him, and he said he would be glad to talk to us at some point. So we've got a good lineup. And
we do have a good lineup.
Yeah.
We have lots and lots to look forward to, lots of things to be excited about. So I appreciate all your work on that. And like I said, lots to look forward to. So stick with us. Hang in there. We have a bright days ahead. All right. And speaking of bright days ahead, we decided that we're going to end every meeting with good news. So
before you do that, Kim, can I just interject something? The meeting with Suzanne Kelman, she wants us all to bring a huge sheet of paper. She's doing, her topic is writing a book in 6 weeks, right? First draft in 6 weeks.
Right.
So she's going to give us like her method for plotting and structure and getting it all down really quickly in a first draft. So she wants us to bring a huge piece of paper to do some brainstorming, to bring markers and little index cards. So she's going to kind of show you how to do that process. So if y'all are coming, I think it's going to be a much more hands-on kind of a thing. And I'm excited because she's sold over 250,000 books with her various 2 different publishing platforms, and she's also got a really cool British accent. So
she is a great speaker. She's a great speaker. Yes. If you guys, I'm going to plug your podcast, KJ. So KJ and Suzanne Kelman have a podcast called Blondie and the Brit, and they have interviewed lots of great authors, and they're some fascinating interviews and lots of fun. And so they do have a great conversational style, and it's going to be a great workshop, hands-on. If you're thinking about a new book, I know that's going to work perfect for me because I'm going to start plotting a new book next month. So
bring your supplies, tell your friends. I think it's going to be really engaging. And
I have some gigantic flip chart paper, so if anybody wants some paper, Those still exist, those big flip chart things. So, all right. Yes, Stan.
Well, as far as announcements, I have a publication date on my new book coming out. The Ushering, the Amber. The first book is called Amber for the Ushering series, and it's going to be out on the Ides of March.
Okay, for those of us, that's March 15th?
Yes.
Okay. I knew it. I just wasn't sure that everyone else would know.
Well, it's a literary thing. I think they probably did.
Yeah, they probably did. But all right. Well, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
That's excellent. Anybody else celebrations? I have a so I'm going to finish up the draft of my 5th book in my series this month, and so I'll set a publication date then, but I'm afraid to until I get it all done to set a date. But I was also invited to be in this box set of 12 other cozy mystery writers, and so we each have put the first book in our series. They're all authors who have a series, cozy mystery series, and so we each put the whole book into this ebook box set, and we're going to all promote it and everything, and so it's a way to kind of meet other authors, meet readers of those other authors and kind of cross promote and everything. So that's an exciting thing, and it's going to be coming out this month. So I'll put something on the Facebook page about that. But if you have, and Dan, please be sure and post your new release on the Cap Rock Writers Facebook page. And Saturday is the day to self-promote a little bit, all your wins, and we want to see that and encourage each other and celebrate each other's accomplishments. So please do that and let everybody know what you've got out there.
Okay, I've got another book that will come out in March. I've got book 7 comes out in March of my series.
Awesome. Okay, now what is the series called?
The series is called Valhalla AWOL.
Valhalla AWOL.
Right.
Is the series. And what's the book title?
This one, it's Weird D's Chords, as in the D's-ear. So all of my titles have a weirdness that has to go with Norse language. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. And do you write under Steve Curry?
Yes.
Is that your, okay, beautiful.
I can look for Steve Curry.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. And I'm sorry.
And the second bit is I just sent off the character board for my 3rd book to the narrator for Tantor Media.
Yay.
So that'll come out in April. That'll be the 3rd book in the series.
And are the other 2 already published? Audiobooks?
Yeah. The one coming out is book 7.
No, I mean the audiobooks. You said this is the
other
3rd
2 audiobooks came out in November and December.
Awesome. Excellent. I love audiobooks. That's the only way I'll get any reading done. Is audiobooks.
Well, it was a surprise to me. They contacted me. I didn't contact them.
That's excellent.
That's mine.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I've got my pre-release out for July the 2nd for my Hot Rod magazine, and I hope I can get it done by then so it can be released.
Good. Get on it, Mathis.
Yeah, you'll do it. You'll do it.
And I also posted in chat the link to Blondie and Britt for
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we have 90 episodes. We haven't recorded a whole lot lately. We do have one video interview I did with Suzanne. So if you want to get to know her a little bit, it's on our YouTube channel, Blondie and the Brit, as well. And it's just me interviewing her about her successes with her latest novels and her new publisher, Book Couture. So thanks for posting that, Mathis, and Kim for bringing it up.
All right, everybody. Is there anything else? Anything else you want to share?
May I have a question?
Yes.
You see, you have another beautiful lady up here too. Her name is Judy, right? And it's her first time today too. And the question I have is, you all have this beautiful information out there for each other, but you also help each other where you're like, okay, for example, Dan, how would you solve this problem for me? Are there any ideas? Or do you just do things in a big frame when you meet? I just want to know, like, Jen, I'm stuck with the character, or do you have any advice, or do you always put it in a big form? That's why I just would like to know.
It's a great question.
No, yeah, those are good questions. And, we'll have an open mic in July, but we should, I mean, most of our meetings are not set for questions like that, but I guess our Facebook site, we could ask questions on that. If we've got a problem, or even on the website, maybe we should even have a page on the website for just
like a bulletin board or something like that.
A bulletin board, something like that.
I like that. I like that idea, because like the Facebook is a good place. Like, hey, I have this, I need a plot point, help me out. I've seen that in other groups. So I'd say that who's interested in doing that, just post it up on our Facebook. We love to have interactive chat. If you need questions, have questions about, publishing or writing or whatever, just throw them out there. We're all, lots of experience here in this group. So.
Yeah. Well, that's probably going to work really well on Facebook for this group, because I haven't seen any antagonism, any maliciousness, any attempt to belittle another writer out of this group, which you get on Facebook a lot. But
I hope you never do.
I'll nip it in the butt if it happens. It's good to leave.
I think this group would be very supportive of that kind of thing.
Yes.
And that would be one of the reasons I might actually look into it. A lot of places I won't ask those kind of questions because I'm totally against them.
Yeah. I know. I saw something last week and I thought, I think writers must be both like the simultaneously most egocentric people and the most insecure people, because we're willing to put ourselves out there, and but like there's always somebody who wants to tear everybody else down, and it is what it is.
We call them trolls. Yes.
It doesn't speak about you, it speaks about them. So I'm like, whatever. And then you have to say, we don't have this in our group, you may leave. I mean, I have seen this in other places too, where people are like, I didn't open this. Miss Salazar, Jen, she did this too. She got these negative comments and she's like, this is a site where we all kind to each other. I will boot you out. And I think this is the right
Yeah.
Jackie Weaver, you're gone.
and that's what I want to make sure this group is to support each other and not get caught up in all that. We have to do that everywhere else on Facebook and elsewhere on social media. This needs to be a place where we can help each other and ask questions and feel comfortable enough to, we've got people who have never even published yet, who are writing their first books. We should be able to answer any of their questions. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And we've got a lot of things that can give you great advice. So.
And even though this is not so much a critique club, we do want to promote our critique clubs. We do have the Right group here in Lubbock, who that's exactly what their purpose is to, you ask them about, you can give them 10 pages a week, and they've got people who will read and and go over it very carefully. I can only read one manuscript a week, but I do that much, and I go ahead and turn it back into the author. But we have a great discussion every Tuesday night. So certainly, I can send you the link to that group too. So if we're writers, we need this for our authors group, but we also need that group too. So go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
I just put my email in the chat so that if you are interested in being part of the Right, which we are affiliated with Caprock, if you're interested with being part of the Right, which is our critique group, then just email me and I can make sure that you can get the link, or you can email Mathis. Mathis says the link he's actually the one who sends out everything.
The other group that's affiliated with it is one that I run on. It's the third Thursday of each month at 7:30. It's a Zoom right now, and it's the Barnes & Noble Author Support Group. So it's more of a forum for discussion, bring your questions, marketing, publishing, all that kind of stuff. So if anyone's interested in that, I'm not sure. I have a book group. You can look up Barnes & Noble.
Accolade.
There's
everything I've learned about marketing's been from that lady. She knows it all.
Yeah. You're amazing. Yes, appreciate you, KJ, for all of that.
So
I hope to start going on that meeting every Thursday, third Thursday too. So.
I think there's a link to that group in the newsletter also, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
And you've been sending me the links. It just happened the last 3 Thursday meetings that you had. I couldn't make it, but I will be making it to everyone I can. So
so there is a link in the newsletter, and I just got permission to be able to promote that group in here with our group. So I'm hoping to have just a quick little link in all of those so that people can be part of it. We do have a Facebook group that we, remind people. I also have a newsletter that goes out to remind people about the meetings, and then, put up some issues, or a lot of times I'll put up the notes from the meetings that we held, so you can go back and look at that stuff. So anyway, I think we've overstayed our welcome maybe a little bit. We usually do an hour, and now we're almost to 2. So,
well, that's ending on a good note, though. Thank y'all so much for coming. Thank you, Janett, again for your presentation. It was very interesting. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you.
And thank you, Jan, for all your work.
Oh,
we appreciate it. No. And everybody, happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
Eat lots of chocolate.
I can always do that. Thank you. I will.
All right, y'all. Take care. Yes, stay warm. We'll see y'all in March.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.